Hey guys, Chris with Slacker Z. How you guys going tonight? Hope everything's good. Yeah, so I decided to do a little video, just talk about some crap and other stuff, some video responses, other stuff I wanted to bring up while I'm taking a nice evening stroll here out in the middle of the cornfield area on a gravel road outside my town. This is while I'm walking, as opposed to Sean from the GM's Dice on while I'm driving. So, yeah. So I want to talk about a few things today while I'm out walking. Have a little time to kill. First off, earlier this week, beginning of the week, or last week I think, I was talking about GMs and players in their descriptions using the words kinda and sorta. For example, my character is kind of throwing a ball, or as a GM, so-and-so is kind of making this movement, you know, kind of like that. And see, and I just used it. And I got a little critical, nothing too bad. I try not to get too critical, just more of a kind of, hey, you know, be aware of it. And I realized that yesterday, it's not any one cause. And let me explain how I've kind of come up with this. How I have come up with this. See, did it again. When you're talking in an improvisational way, for example, you're running a game, you're doing some improv on stage, you're doing a speech that you're talking off the seat of your pants. Even if you're a broadcaster doing broadcasting live, you improv, and you've got some guidelines on what you got to talk about, but you improv a lot of it. And I noticed yesterday when I was at work, we had the Weather Channel on, and we're talking about severe weather, and the broadcaster on there, a couple times when I was listening, I was actually working, so don't worry, I wasn't watching it, I was listening while I was working, was using kind of and sort of in their descriptions. I realized that it's not any one cause, it just happens. And as you can see, I'm doing this improv, talking to you guys. I don't have a script in front of me. I'm walking with my tablet in one hand, cigarette in the other right now. And I used it a couple times. The only thing you need to know is to be aware of it. When you public speak, I during school, high school, I did a lot of public speaking, good at it. It's something I enjoyed to do. So it's just being aware of your mistakes you make. It's not a criticism like, hey, you're a bad guy for using kinda and sorta, what the hell are you doing? No, it's just more of a critique of, hey, you know, you're doing it, watch it, you know. Just be aware of it so then you can improve yourself. It's not about, you know, picking on people. It's about improving yourself when you're speaking. So that was the first subject. Second subject. Oh yeah, I want to thank, well, let's start it off this way. July 17th was my son's 4th birthday, my middle child. And we decided, well, my girlfriend decided for my birthday, which was back at the end of April, to go to the show, the Shinedown Halestorm show in Sioux City, Iowa at the Hard Rock. Guys are ever up in Sioux City, Iowa, check out the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. That place is freaking awesome. But that's a side note. And to me, July 17th has a much more special meaning to me. It's more of a celebration of life. And there's a little small story behind on why that is that way for me. Some of my really good friends know. Some people that were there, my girlfriend knows. My parents know, and some family members. But the day my son was born, well, let's go back a couple days. The weekend, or the Friday before, we found out that there was some trouble with the pregnancy. My son had stopped growing. Doctors were really worried, so they decided that they were gonna pull him about a month early because he wasn't growing anymore from the last visit that mom had, or my girlfriend had. So we were like, okay. And we stayed at the hospital for a little bit, and they decided that they weren't going to induce her that day. They were going to wait until the 17th. So we're like, okay, so we spent the weekend. We tried to enjoy ourselves the best I can, knowing that there was possibly some problems, but we got through it. And the day we went in, they went in, and our son had turned. He was in birth position, and over the weekend had turned and went breech. So they had to go in via C-section. Well, when they got him out, he wasn't breathing, and for like, it was 2 minutes, and I swear to God, it was the longest 2 minutes of my life. My son did not breathe. He did finally breathe after the 2 minutes. Unfortunately, because of what had happened, they had to put him in NICU, and he was in NICU for about 4 or 5 days, but they finally released him. And there was nothing wrong. It was just some weird fluke thing that happened. But during that whole time, I took life on a more serious note. So every year when my son's born, on my son's birthday, I take life, and especially because he's around, life more precious. My life is more serious, and it's more of a celebration of life in general on his birthday. And so that's what it means to me. Well, like I said, on the 17th, his birthday, it was his 4th birthday, we went up to Sioux City. I was worried about the crowds when I was there. My son's small for his age, extremely small. And I've been at shows, a lot of shows, and the crowds can get a little rowdy sometime. Well, my girlfriend wanted to go up front, like she always does. I don't like the front anymore, getting old. I don't like getting slammed behind during the whole show. I want to enjoy the show. I want to rock out. So I usually don't. I usually stand back further where the action isn't. I've got good eyesight, so I don't care if I'm right up front. I can still see the band. But she wanted to go. She wanted to take my son up, so I was like, okay, we'll go. I was a little worried the whole time. But the crowd was awesome. A lot of kids around us, you know, with their family, older kids. It was an awesome crowd. Wasn't pushed once. Wasn't slammed around. Wasn't, you know, none of that BS that happens sometimes at concerts. Didn't happen. So I personally, on that note, want to thank the crowd, everybody who was there at that show. You guys were awesome. You guys treated my kid with respect, and I appreciate that. And that's why I love rock and roll. Because most of the time, you get a few rowdies. There's always bad apples in any bunches you find. But mostly the crowd was good. And I want to personally thank not only the crowd, but I want to thank the bands. I want to thank Shinedown. I want to thank Halestorm. You guys you made my kid's night. Throwing him drumsticks from Shinedown. He got 2 drumsticks, one from Zach, one from the drummer. I can't remember his name right offhand. Sorry, my memory's all screwy. And they showed major love. Halestorm did the same thing, threw pick for him, showed him some love, and I appreciate that, you know. I'm trying to teach my younger 2 boys to appreciate rock music and heavy metal and all that a lot better, or a lot more than I got to as a kid. Which will go to the last thing I'm going to talk about, but I got something else to talk about before that, with metal and hard rock. But, yeah. So, again, Shinedown, Halestorm. Love you guys. Love the love and support you showed my son for being there. And just thought you guys should know that it was a very special day, not only for us on a personal level, but made it more special with you guys sharing that with us and all the crowd. So thank you. Next subject on the list. We got a car coming, so I'm going to hold off a little bit. Ooh. If you didn't see it, but you probably heard it. Car goes by. But on to the next subject. Those people who, and I'm going to post this on my different social media and stuff, so my friends, family, other people who follow me can see this. SACOSWX stands for Saunders County Severe Weather. Started it about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Was running it for a while, and then almost a year ago, it's almost been a year, I suspended it. Never gave an explanation why. I'm going to stop here because I'm not ready to go back home yet, and I don't need to show everybody where I live. But anyway, so I suspended it about a year ago. I never gave a reason why. Here's the reason why. My vision for it is multifaceted. You know, you got Slackers E, the channel you guys are watching now, is a segment of my whole big dream of what I want to do with social media, the internet, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And SACOSWX is which was I'm going to call it from this point on, because it's a long name otherwise. But it does stand for, if I didn't say it before, Saunders County Severe Weather. I live in Saunders County, Nebraska. This has been my home for a little while. Probably will be my home for quite a while. So I like to warn the people of it. We're not very big. It's not, you know, mostly rural. Not a lot of big cities here. We're close to Omaha, and Lincoln, but otherwise a lot of small towns. The biggest town I think has got 4,000 people in it. But I like to keep them weather aware. I'm a big fan of weather. I'd love to go storm chasing some more. I haven't done it in 2 years. Film it, see some beautiful storms. Not necessarily tornadoes, just weather in general. Some awesome thunderstorms and stuff like that. So over time, well, let's go back to this way. I work about 30 to 40 hours a week, depending on how busy work is. I also take care of a family. Spend time with my family whenever I can. Everybody who has a family should do that. Not enough of that in the world sometimes. And I also, when I'm got some free time, I'm either planning role-playing games that you've seen on my channel, obviously, and run games and playing games. So my time is very, very, very limited. The problem is, when it comes to this, is at my job, I'm not allowed to have a cell phone, tablet, none of that stuff. So it's extremely difficult for me to warn anybody on a Facebook page, which that's what this is. I'm talking about the Facebook page. It's very hard for me to do any of that when I'm at work and have no access to anything that could connect up to social media. I mean, yeah, I've got a computer I could get on and do that stuff, but I've got a job to do. I'm busy constantly. So once I started working, because when I started it, I was in school. I wasn't working full-time. I was only school, and that was it. School and taking care of the one boy I was just talking about earlier. So I didn't have to worry about I had a lot of free time on my hands. So it was a great way to start. It was kind of a plan I had while I was going to school. So I started it, then I started working after I got out of school. And it became, like I said, extremely difficult to give any warnings. Well, I'd ask people, I had about 200 people, I think I still may, that watched the page on a semi-regular basis and loved the fact that I was giving warnings specifically for a county as opposed to like eastern Nebraska or western Iowa, where a lot of the National Weather Service covers and a lot of the news stations around here cover those areas. So I was really specific. And when I asked people if they would want to help, you know, we use Twitter, we use Facebook, mostly Facebook, but we use Twitter sometimes. Nobody wanted to volunteer. Nobody spoke up. And it wasn't accomplishing the goals I wanted to do for that page. So that's why I suspended it. I want it to be the way I envisioned it. And it didn't get that way. So I suspended it until, hopefully, I didn't throw it away all the way. I just suspended it until I can get to that point. But there's some certain things that happen. I need people to help me out doing this stuff. I need to not be working a regular job where doing these videos, observing weather, going out and watching weather live, as it's happening out in the field. That's the kind of stuff I want to do. Well, it's really hard to do that when you're trying to raise a family, you're trying to work, and you're trying to do other stuff to keep it going. There's just not enough hours in a day. Sometimes I wish there was 48 hours in a day. I could probably get a hell of a lot more done in a day, but it's just not going to happen. So that's why I suspended it. So I got the feeling after about a year of it, I never really gave an explanation. So that's the explanation. Will it come back? It's possible. It's in the plan. It's in the plan for this channel. It's in the plan for what I want to do down the road. Another person driving by. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm not saying it's never going to come back. It probably will. I mean, like I said, that's part of what I want to do. But, I need to make money doing what I'm doing now. And it's not making any money. What's making money is my job, and it pays the bills, and it's barely keeping what I'm doing now going, but luckily what I'm doing now is at a very minimum, so it's not costing a lot of money. And that covers that subject. So we're at the final subject of this video. I know it's starting to get long. We're about 15 minutes or so, but that's okay. It won't be too much longer. There was a video by a friend of mine. I'd say not a real good friend, but I've had him in games. Hessian is his name. So he put out a video about a month or two ago. It basically came up to, are you a fan of heavy metal? You know, all us role players, geeks, stuff. Are you a fan of heavy metal? He knows the answer to that question because we talked about it prior. But you as the watchers don't. I obviously, from earlier when I was talking about Shinedown, Halestorm, am I a fan of heavy metal? Oh yeah. My son, the one I was talking about with the concert, he's been at 4 shows already. His first show was Slipknot, which I'm a big fan of Slipknot. Korn, and somebody else. I can't remember who the other band was. It was a band I'd never really heard of. Wasn't really into. They're okay. But I love heavy metal. I didn't when I was a kid as much. I was more into, like, I grew up late 70s, early 80s. So my dad was, you know, a Beatles fan, a lot of that classic rock, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But I listened to a lot of that, and my mom was really big into disco and like Barbra Streisand and Elvis and stuff like that. So I didn't get that musical influence from my parents. I got my heavy metal influence from teen angst growing up as a kid. I was one of those kids that was bullied a lot. Not when I first went to school. When I first went to school, I was in Oregon, where my mom grew up, and it was a little bit different environment. But when I moved out here to Nebraska, 2nd grade year, things changed majorly. It was a lot of years of bullying and getting picked on. I was small. I was a geek, obviously. I like nerdy stuff. I like doing things like that. So I was picked on a lot around here. And as I got older and older, that anger of being picked on all the time for whatever reason, for being who I am, didn't make much sense to me. So that anger needed to filter out, because I'm one of those types of people, when I get mad, well, not anymore as much, but when I was younger, I'd keep that anger in. And that anger will just eat you away. So I needed an outlet. One of the first bands, heavy metal bands I got into, oh man, it's been forever, but I got into like Metallica. I got into I was into a lot of the hair bands too at that time, because they were still out. The first band I really got into, I consider, so in Metallica I'd heard, I liked some of their stuff, and Justice for All was like the album back when I was in high school that I loved. But the one band, I mean, I got into Faith No More. I don't know if you consider them metal or not, but they were a really good band. They still are. But Alice in Chains was the band that really got me into heavy metal. You know, some people say, well, Alice in Chains isn't metal. You listen to it close enough, it's pretty metal. So Alice in Chains was one of the first bands I really got into. And over time, some of my other favorite bands, I said Slipknot before, Tool was like a big band for me for the longest time. I'd seen them twice in concert. Would have seen them 3 times, but unfortunately, I don't know, we're not going to get into that. That's another video altogether. But got into Tool, got into, you know, White Zombie, Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden, which I'd consider Soundgarden more metal than grunge. They're more on the level of Alice in Chains, in my opinion. But I got into bands like that, you know. When I was in high school, we're going from the hair bands to the grunge scene, and a lot of good heavy metal came out during that time. A lot of good bands that are still around today. I think Alice in Chains is still around. I don't think Rage is anymore. I haven't heard a new album in a while, and over time, you know, Tool's still around, even though that, you know, they're not putting out any new albums. I've seen them, they're touring every once in a while, or doing shows, so that's always nice. Wish they'd come out here more often, but hey, you know, if you don't got an album and you ain't got anybody supporting that album, it's really hard to get out here, and I understand that. So But yes, so heavy metal has been a big influence on me. And if it wasn't for heavy metal, I mean, quite honestly, I probably would not be with the girlfriend I got now, and I probably wouldn't have my two youngest boys right now, my middle one and my youngest one. Because it was heavy metal, that scene that we eventually met through mutual friends that were in a band, which I'd consider a hard rock / heavy metal band. And that's how we met and been together ever since for 8 years now. So that's my response to that. Yes, heavy metal. Being a nerd, being a geek, heavy metal. Oh yeah, I could see it. You sit there, and I don't know if it happens as much these days, but I'm sure it does. Bullying and shit like that. Maybe this will be the last subject. We'll get on that. But to answer is it Darth Hessian? I can't remember. Hessian. Kevin is what I know him by. Yes, heavy metal, big influence on my life. Love it. Live it. Breathe it. So there you go with that. Final thing, bullying. I'll bring that up because it kind of got up in this. If you're watching this and you've been bullied, you understand it. But if you were the ones that were the bullies at one time, all you need to do is show your kids or show other kids. Bullying's not cool. If you thought it was cool, it's not cool. Maybe physically a lot of kids can deal with it. I know I've got a high tolerance for pain, always have. I could take the physical of that, abuse. It was the mental abuse that I never got over, and still to this day have issues with in my personal life. I can take off these sunglasses now. The sun's blocked by the clouds. It's not so bright out here. But yeah, bullying is just not cool. And me and another guy, one of my customers at work, were talking about it, and I said, man, if I ever caught my kids becoming bullies, they'd get it, and they would. Bullying's not cool. I know you probably have heard it 1,000 times, but it's not cool. And I could speak from personal experience, because not only was I bullied, when I got into high school, I started to become the one thing I hated, the bully. And when I realized that, my whole world changed. I became more understanding on what bullies go through. And sometimes the bullies are the ones that got bullied. Like I started to become. They get bullied as kids. Of course they're going to become bullies in later life. I mean, they gotta find a way to fight back. Unfortunately, that's not the way to fight back. You want to fight back at bullies. Be yourself. Stand up for yourself. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to mince words with them. Because more than likely, you're going to probably be smarter if you're being bullied than the bully anyway. You're going to win. That's the way I felt. I never got verbal with them. I never tried to get physical with them because I knew I was smarter than a lot of them. Their grades proved it. Sorry, they did. I was one of the top students in class. The bullies typically weren't. They were at the bottom end of it. You don't have to engage them. Just be yourself. Live your life. Do what the hell you want to do, within reason, of course. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to do illegal bullshit. You don't want to do any of that. But be who you are as a person. Don't compromise. Don't do any of that. So, well, I think this video has gone on long enough. And I think I may have to go pick up the girlfriend and the boys soon. They went to the zoo, whatnot. Had a nice day with Grandma. I'm sure they'll be calling here soon. I'll be posting this video shortly. If you guys love this kind of video, me just rambling on, talking about shit, give it a like. Put a comment down below. Down below in the comments down here. Subscribe. Send this to people, let people know about it. Like I said, I'm trying to hopefully make money doing this kind of stuff. I've got other plans. I've got, the gaming videos. Love doing that. I'll do some more of this kind of stuff every once in a while. It won't be an everyday thing. I can't do it every day, unfortunately. I'm just way too busy. I'd love to. If this was all I was doing, I'd do it every day. But this, unfortunately, is not all that I'm doing, like I said before. So, if you've got ideas for me, you want to help me out by, just subscribing for one, and liking my videos. That helps out a lot. It's the way the things work in YouTube, but it brings more people in. You get put suggested on when they put up your homepage of your or your YouTube thing. It'll come up suggested things, and they'll show other people that are doing stuff similar to what I'm doing. And, you know, there's a lot of great people out there. You know, you've got, I mean, one person on YouTube that I've recently got into is a guy by the name Adam the Woo. He does these daily blogs, and he shows these really unusual places off the beaten path and stuff. It's really interesting. I mean, I know not everybody would be interested in it, but it's something I'm interested in. So, you know, give love to people like that is even supporting the whole community as a whole, us YouTubers, us gamers, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, this has gone on for about 20 plus minutes, so I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Thank you for watching. And again, like, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in not too long of a time. Take care, guys. Peace out.